So the first question is, can we expect major cybersecurity incidents within days of the end of life date, or will the risk realistically set in after a few weeks or months?
Now, that's actually a great question. So going back and looking at the distributions that we've already supported and looking at CVEs, specifically with Ubuntu is a great example. We were releasing 3 package and primary operating system packages the morning after end of life of Ubuntu 2004. So, there is no schedule when CVEs are going to be found, when they need to be patched. But we already know in the case of CentOS 7, Red Hat and the CentOS 7 community have already started downgrading high and critical CVEs, and they're not patching them. So to date, as of this morning, we've already, in our early release of CentOS 7, we've already patched 103 packages.
Wow.
So if that's a clue, there's already packages that CentOS 7 is already downgraded. They're not patching. So there are already existing vulnerabilities in your end-of-life service, and it's not even end of life. So the answer is it's already started. So you're already vulnerable if you're not taking care of mitigating these outdated packages already.
Thank you for that answer. This one concerns CentOS Stream. So I've heard more than once that migrating to CentOS Stream isn't the best move. Can you elaborate why that is?
So CentOS Stream is the development platform now, and it's always cutting edge. So when you're in a production environment, you want to make sure that you have the highest level of stability. So prior to the changes that Red Hat made around CentOS in the last couple years, it used to be that Red Hat did all of the development in-house. They built Rail. Then CentOS 7 was repackaged from the source RPMs that Rail had already proven. So we knew that CentOS 7 or CentOS itself was always going to be, as hardened as Rail. Now, CentOS Stream is now the upstream, so it reversed direction. So CentOS 7 or CentOS Stream is the development platform. That's where all of the patching is being found, applied. The community is actually, going through the code, moving the products forward. Then the source from Stream is brought down, and that is what builds Rail, the production-ready, enterprise-ready distribution. And that's what other distributions. So think of Stream as being, as its name implies, upstream, and it's the development platform. So it's always, in a state of flux.
Good answer. Next question is, can we migrate from CentOS 7 to Rail easily? Is that the easiest path?
There are, and there's lots of different migration tools available. There are scripts that can convert you from, say, CentOS 7 to Rail 7, but you're going from end-of-life operating system to an end-of-life operating system. So that's sort of a wash. There are migration tools. Alma Linux has a migration tool that can assist you in migrating from CentOS 7 to Alma Linux 8 through its Elevate tool. Then you could even use Elevate to go from Alma Linux 8 to Alma Linux 9. And Alma Linux 9 is going to have a full 16-year lifespan if you're looking for something, really long term. But Alma Linux 8 also has a 10-year lifespan, of which we're already in. But it really comes down to there's different tools, what your specific needs are.
We're actually going to be talking more about Elevate in our next webinar. So if you're on this and you're wanting to know more about the Elevate tool, be sure to sign up for our next webinar as well. Next question is, when it comes to migrating, how do we ensure data integrity during the transition?
Now that's a issue by issue conversation. So migrations are specifically that. It really comes down to the application stack that you're using and the tools that they have for migrating data. You know, is it an easy swap? You have your CentOS 7 in this case. You build out a new application stack on a new operating system. Is it easy to just move the data set and connect into it? Is it a database? You know, is it, you know, like no database type of data? It really comes down to the individual application. But that is definitely something you should always take into account, is creating your backups of your original data as you go through any transition. But that's more of a question specific to the application stack. It's a little hard to be concise in this environment.
Good points. Next question is, if my organization can't afford extended support until Q4, what can we do until then to stay secure?
That's really a hard one to answer. I mean, you're going to be vulnerable to exploit. So if you can't get an extended support to take packages until Q4, your best opportunity is to you know, good practice in your cybersecurity and your infrastructure. Make sure that you've got good protocol for how your teams work in your environment, access control within your environment, whether it's through internet, through VPN, you know, direct VPN, on site, you know, with direct handling. Be concise in the permissions for connecting any type of device that could, you know, provide any malware into your infrastructure. Lock down your firewalls, proxies. Just good practice until you can actually take appropriate actions to update your packages.
Oh, good. That's a good point there. So next question is, how will a migration from CentOS 7 affect enterprise applications currently running on it? And what steps should be taken to ensure compatibility with the new OS?
So again, that's a question that's going to come down to the application stack that you're using and their opportunity for migration of data. Generally, websites, you know, if you're running web applications on Python or PHP or Node.js, some type of Java platform, making sure that you have the appropriate versions of the languages. Now, some languages or languages that are built for CentOS 7, there are the ability to increase and bring those up over time, but you need to make sure that your application stack, you need to understand what language and language version is it tied to, because there's development changes with languages over time. So making sure that, again, checking the application itself for compatibility, checking your data for consistent compatibility on deployment. Can I just move my data over? Does my data set need to be processed through some type of conversion tool for the migration to be acceptable on a new platform? Are there any significant changes in an application from CentOS 7 to the new distribution, as well as not only the distribution, but more the version of the application? But that, again, comes down to data conversion, data remapping, and so on. So those are things that we're happy to talk with you about. We can always go more in depth with you in a direct one-on-one conversation.
That's a good point. Speaking of which, that covers all the questions for the CentOS EOL. And now, Racer, we're going to jump into the product questions regarding CentOS 7 ELS. So the first question about CentOS 7 ELS is, after adding extended lifecycle support to my CentOS 7 server, Will I be able to update my WHM and cPanel versions as it is allowed right now due to the current version of CentOS 7 on my server?
So the CentOS 7 service, end of life service that we provide here at TuxCare is a maintenance process. So unlike the way that the individual packages within the distribution move forward over time, CVEs come out, patches are applied, those packages move forward, they get iterated. We will be maintaining the last complete and final version of all of the packages that we support within CentOS 7 ELS at that last state. So all of the compatibility that all of the applications that you are consuming in your application stack today, they should all be compatible with that very last version at the 7.9 release at end of life. So we will synchronize the repository and those package versions. Our naming convention will stick with that final version name. We'll add a tag .tuxcare.els with a number. That number will iterate over time with the number of CVEs that we patch. So it's very easy for compatibility to make sure that whatever your application stack is using today is obviously going to be compatible with the final release version of CentOS 7. And as us maintaining that final version, we won't change any of the ABIs and information required for compatibility. So you'll still be compatible with the last state of CentOS 7, and any of your application stack that are running on CentOS 7 compatible with the final 7.9 release will experience no difference.
That's a great explanation. And then next question is, we get this question a lot, is do you create the patches yourself?
That is a key question. That is one of the most important questions that we get asked. And the answer is, as far as the patches, the actual released patches for the new binaries, the answer to that is yes. Now, let me clarify. As a operating system company, so TuxCare is the enterprise division of Cloud Linux. Cloud Linux is a commercial Linux distribution specific to the hosting industry, but it has been around since 2009, and it is the primary commercial distribution for the hosting industry within the Linux world. And again, it's a derivative of CentOS 7 in Rail in the past, now built off of Alma Linux. We're also the original founders of Alma Linux before we provided it off as a nonprofit within the Alma Linux Foundation and gave it to the community to control. Now, as a operating system first company, we understand the process of working with operating systems. We are also under under NDA and on the list with all of the security newsletters and communications with all of the major Linux distributions, the package project organizations, MITRE, NIST. So we generally know what's going on in the security realm of the operating system before release of information to embargo. Now, when it comes to ELS and EOL operating systems, again, the opportunity that a CVE is going to come out and specifically target a package and an end-of-life product is limited. It does happen from time to time, but what we look at is we start tracking all of the packages from the package project organizations. We also start tracking all of the upline distributions to look to see what is being affected within those distributions, because again, every packages are not rebuilt from scratch every new release cycle and new distribution. So there's a lot of times that CVE data can be recognized in end-of-life packages. So we have the ability to communicate with all of these organizations, track. If we can utilize direct patch code accepted by the package project organization, as outlined by other CVEs, will directly use their code. Sometimes we may have to backport it, but if a CVE comes out and the organization is orphaning it, the upline distributions are not working on it, we do have the ability and we have the know-how within the team to go in and build our own patches when necessary. But we prefer to utilize package organization approved, distribution approved patches. But we will take that, we will apply it to the source code. We do package the binaries, we test the binaries, and we release into our repositories with the industry standard OVA files showing the mitigation of those CVEs for compliance scanners to ingest and consume for your compliance after end of life. So everything that you get from us has been vetted down to the source code and the patch code by us.
It's a great explanation. And just one quick housekeeping note, we are going to extend the time for the webinar another about 20 minutes because we do want to get to as many questions as possible. So we're going to keep this running. So the next question is, we are running applications that use PHP 8.1 on CentOS 7. Will TuxCare extended support cover PHP 8.1?
So the CentOS 7 ELS services themselves cover the base version of PHP, which comes with CentOS 7, and that's 5.4. We do have a extended life support for PHP specific, and that actually covers from, I believe it's version 5.5.1 all the way up to the latest version of PHP, in which we actually vet and build out and harden not only the outdated versions of PHP with their own end-of-life support, but we also harden all of the major extensions. So if you're running a non-standard version of PHP or with the operating system, but you also need hardened and secured versions of the extensions for PHP, check out our PHP end-of-life support services.
That's a good call out there. This is another question that we get a lot of is, what is the estimated installation time for adding ELS to my CentOS 7 server?
About 2 minutes. If you're utilizing our public repository, it's a commercial public repository, so you need authentication. So you can acquire a license key from us. You download the installer, run the installer with the license key. What that is going to do is it's going to add in our repository to your Yum configuration. This gives you, and it's going to create the authentication keys, giving you access. When you run Yum, it's going to be status quo, the same way you're running it today. So any of your automation tools, if you're using Ansible, Puppet, Chef, if you're utilizing Foreman or Satellite or any other tools, if your servers have direct access to the internet to reach our repository directly, you can easily utilize an automation script to run the installation against each of the server, and then you're finished. So it could literally be done in less than 2 minutes.
And I also want to say that on our website, you can actually go and purchase the licenses for CentOS 7 directly from our website without having to talk to anyone, just in case you need a test license or you have a couple servers. You can actually do that from our website as well. Next question. If you're on CentOS 7 ELS, I understand that the operating system will still receive security fixes. If the server is running cPanel WHM, will those software packages still be receiving security updates, or is cPanel ending updates to their software so those could be vulnerable even if your OS is secure?
So we are supplying packages and security updates for the operating system. So if you need updates to your cPanel WHM, that's something that you need to go and talk to cPanel WHM. I know in the past with WHM cPanel for CentOS 6, they actually, and as well as our Cloud Linux 6, I believe that they might have, I would have to go back in and review, but there was some coverage past end of life. They may have stopped for CentOS 6, but they may have continued support in their application for Cloud Linux 6. So that's a question we would have to take back to Web Pros and cPanel.
So whoever asked that question previously, just go to our website, ask a question, and we can help you get that answer as well.
Yeah, we'd be happy to talk with you and liaison with them as well.
All right. Next question is, how will maintenance updates and security patches be delivered to our systems? Is there a dedicated repository, and how does it integrate with existing package management tools?
So the principal way is the way that we were just talking about in one of the previous questions, is we have a repository. You can install licenses, but we do have some other non-published ways. We can work with you on a case-by-case basis. So if you've got internal mirrors that you're currently using, and you're using Foreman or Satellite or similar type tools, go to our website, set up a meeting. We'd be happy to talk with you on a case-by-case basis. But we can easily say, any way that you're consuming the packages within your infrastructure today, we can work with you to meet the same process and minimize the amount of workload that you guys need to do just to consume our services.
Good point. Next question is, if the cost of making use of your service forces one to migrate to another distro, for example, Alma Linux 8, and then Alma Linux 9, do you have a tool to help migrate smoothly?
So that's going to be Elevate. It's not provided by us. It's an actual tool by Alma Linux. So Elevate can assist you with migrating in place from CentOS 7 to Alma Linux 8. And then subsequently, you can still utilize Elevate to get you from Alma Linux 8 to Alma Linux 9.
And this is just another call out for the webinar on May 15th as well. You know, if you want to learn more about Elevate, definitely join our webinar on May 15th too. Next question is, what sources do you use to track CVEs?
So we utilize both MITRE NIST as upstream, as well as all of the newsletters and news groups that we're in for all of the major package project organizations and distributions that we are on under NDA. So we actually have all of those in our tracking tool to make sure that we're getting all the information prior to release of information from embargo to the public.
How are patches developed for vulnerabilities discovered after the official CentOS 7 end of life, and what measures are in place to ensure these patches do not introduce new vulnerabilities or compatibility issues?
Okay, so this is a multi-part question. So one, CVEs are tracked by, again, looking upstream. So looking at the package organization and what MITRE and NIST and other security firms release. So we track, again, we're under NDA. We work with all of these different organizations as a operating system-based company to track all of the different packages around the distribution, and specifically all of those that we support. So we're looking at the actual package from the project perspective. We're looking at it from upstream distribution and any other third-party security organization looking to, mitigate and find and assist in mitigating any of the vulnerabilities. So we try to take all of the patches again from upstream, from the original organization as they release it. Then we apply that to the source code, compile it. Now, when you look at it, it's the same. It comes down to the same situation that the distribution. There is absolutely zero guarantee in any operating system, whether it's with the principal community or the package organization, that when you patch, that you're not going to introduce that there's not potential to introduce new vulnerabilities. If that was the case, we would never have any vulnerabilities because the very first CVE would have patched everything. You can look back at OpenSSL for a couple years back. I believe we had, what, 5 CVEs released, sequentially in 1 month at the beginning of the year, a couple years ago. So all organizations, us included, the package project organization upstream, everybody's looking to mitigate and remove vulnerabilities, but there's always potential based on code. Everybody does their due diligence and their best practices. That's just the nature of the beast. But it's packaging, testing, releasing, making sure things don't break. But we're here to mitigate any of the vulnerabilities. We're not here to change the structure, add features, release features. So we're only mitigating the security vulnerability.
The next question is a good question. Does my IT staff need additional training after implementing ELS?
Absolutely not. You're gaining access to a repository with packages that's going to work the same exact identical way that you're accessing the CentOS 7 repository today. So you're just going to switch from the repository you use today to our repository. Your tool chain and process is going to remain identical.
Good. That's a good answer. Next one is, are the ELS updates available for purchase from TuxCare only, or does Cloud Linux offer them as well?
Well, we're one company, so whether you're purchasing through the Cloud Linux representative or through us, we're all the same company.
All right. Next question is CentOS 7 or Cloud Linux 7 have the same TuxCare ELS? My server has Cloud Linux 7.
So Cloud Linux 7, it has its own repository, but the packages are both being developed by us in tandem. But because we're talking distributions, Cloud Linux 7 is a distribution, CentOS 7 is a distribution. They have to maintain their isolated repositories. So while the same packages are being built out and delivered, there is CentOS 7 and Cloud Linux 7. So if you have Cloud Linux 7, you need to maintain your subscription to Cloud Linux 7 to get the updates for Cloud Linux 7.
Next question is, we have about 9 minutes left, so we're doing really good. What levels of technical support are offered for extended lifecycle support subscribers, and how are priority issues handled?
So we have 2 different services around CentOS 7 ELS. We have our base services, and that's going to get you access to the packages as well as standard break fix. We have our CentOS 7 ELS complete service that has the SLA. So you get a 15-day SLA on package delivery. You get the standard break fix, but we also add in migration consulting services and some other services. You have access for in both cases, whether it's break fix or our complete services, you have access to our support ticketing system. You select the severity of the situation. We have 24/7, 365 support. Our team is very quick at responding to your ticket and escalating as necessary.
And is there any support or guidance offered for updating custom applications or resolving compatibility issues?
So we do have a bespoke services division. So when we start looking at individual applications, actual, not just migration assistance through consultation, but migration work or custom builds of new applications, we have a bespoke service division. Go to our website, set up an appointment with us through the the Ash channel that Deshay was talking about. And we can actually bring that team in to listen to see what your needs are and see if we're a fit to work together.
Now this is going to be a tricky question for you, Jamie. Do you suggest Alma Linux over Rocky Linux?
That's a loaded question. Obviously, we try to be agnostic. All of our services that we offer, with our live patching and so on, we're agnostic. We try to be fair and open to the community and respond to what our customers' needs are. So when it comes down to which operating system is going to meet your needs, it's obviously due diligence on your side. So I'm not going to be disparaging towards Rocky, but I can share with you from our perspective on what we believe to be the advantages of using Alma Linux. And that is one, it's the only release that is truly community owned, community driven. You can do your own research on that. There's some articles out on the web related to that. But Alma Linux, even though we created it, we gave it as a nonprofit organization. Igor, our CEO, removed himself from the board because, again, it is completely owned by the community. With Alma Linux, if you're an organization and you're a company, you can have company sponsorship and you have the opportunity to vote and give direction. An individual, if you're just somebody who wants to participate in Alma Linux, you can go sign up and become a member for free and you get voting rights for the access. The other thing is looking at potential legal issues in the future. And that resolves around the announcement back in August that Red Hat and IBM don't want people repackaging their source RPMs the way that CentOS has always been repackaged, and other derivatives were repackaged over the years. They feel they're doing all the work. They want the community to participate. In that case, Alma Linux is the one distribution that is participating with the community in the way and in the spirit that Rail and IBM have requested. So Alma Linux participates in working on packages upstream in CentOS Stream, from working in delivering updates, as some of the engineers have, to the kernel, which have been accepted by Linus, have been pushed out, and one of the engineers found a bug that's 20 years in the kernel, fixed it, and that's been updated and released. Other packages for different solutions, for different projects, have been pushed upstream into stream. That way, Red Hat, when they pull from stream and build packages, they benefit. Alma Linux pulls from stream. So and there's a lot of engineers from Red Hat that are community members with Alma Linux, helping it move forward. So there's a very good relationship in that proper symbiotic relationship and request from IBM and Red Hat. So there's no legal issue. The other beauty that this whole thing brought is, if you look back at what we've had in the CentOS world, we were always, sort of shackled to Red Hat, in the means that if Red Hat didn't want to deliver something because it wasn't economical for Red Hat to do it, i.e. bleeding edge hardware drivers that take time to develop and put it in test and put into the system, or other software that wasn't right for the Red Hat ecosystem, it wasn't developed. They didn't make it, so it never made it to CentOS. It couldn't be used, or other people had to build it. It wasn't part of the operating system. So Alma Linux has the opportunity now to be 100% compatible and maintain that compatibility with Red Hat. So anything that runs on Red Hat has the ability to run on Alma Linux, but this also gives Alma Linux the freedom to move forward more quickly. Our work with Alma Linux, we have FIPS validation for Alma Linux 9.2, and you're going to have a 16-year lifespan. We're going to do FIPS for 9.2, 9.6, and 9.10. CentOS never had an EUS type service or true FIPS validation. There were the scripts that could make you FIPS compatible, which is really unofficial and means nothing other than, okay, I've got a configured system. Alma Linux is the only derivative that has that and has actually completed it through that process. So, do your own due diligence. If you want services from us like live patching and whatnot, we are going to maintain our agnostic structure in that we support with live patching for the kernel, OpenSSL, glibc, all of the major distributions that you want to use. So, I hope that's fair enough.
I think that's fair enough. And we got time for one more question. If your question has not been asked, please once again visit our website, click the Ask a Question button in the right-hand corner, and we will basically be able to get to your question as soon as we can. The last question is, how does the extended lifecycle support ensure compliance with industry standards and regulations, especially for businesses in high regulated sectors?
So that's a great question. So again, that comes back to the idea that TuxCare, part of Cloud Linux, is an operating system-based company. So both commercial and our support within the Alma Linux world. It used to be the errata sheets is how compliance organizations and individual administrators would look to see what had been patched and whatnot. Over the years, Red Hat developed the industry standard OVAL file, capital OVAL. We have information available on our website about it as well. But the industry standard OVAL file is what is consumed and ingested by all of the compliance scanners, whether it's Rapid7, Asus, Tenable, Tanium. I believe CrowdStrike uses it for their infrastructure. OpenSCAP is also easy if you're utilizing that open source platform. You can go to our website, you can go to the distributions, pull the OVA file, consume. So the OVA file is the mapping of a package version to the CVEs it actually patches. So that's what they consume, and it is supplied with our ELS services. So provided they consume it. Now, again, we're just an operating system and a service in the industry. It really comes down to the compliance companies are their own companies. So while we do work with them, and most of them have committed, verbally to us that they plan to include the OVA file, most of them are planning on adding it in H2 right after end of life. The reason is that they're already consuming the standard CentOS 7 OVA file at its base. We are going to take over the full capacity after end of life. So they're looking at that transition from CentOS 7 OVA file today to our CentOS 7 ELS OVA file after. Now, right now, some of our customers, because again, we've had customers utilizing ELS services since the end of November when we started our early release because of the downgraded package, but still the need. Now, again, 103 packages we've patched to date. We have customers that are sort of stuck in between. They're in that limbo because they have OVA files showing packages from CentOS 7, and they're not consuming our OVA files, but our OVA files can be read. Some of our customers have installed their own OpenSCAP, consume the files doing the scan so that they have a comparison to provide back to any compliance organization. But make a long story short, try to shorten it. We have the industry standard OVA files. It's there for consumption, ingestion by the compliance scanners for your compliance needs.
I just want to say thank you for everybody that's joined. We really appreciate all the questions. Jamie, great job as far as answering all of these questions as well. Definitely was hitting you with some tough ones, but you handled it like a champ. Once again, just a quick note, if you have any other questions, please reach out to our website, and also visit our blog as well. We have a great blog. We post 2 to 3 pieces of content every day. There's a lot of good information on our products as well as what's going on in the industry as well. Once again, thank you, Jamie. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Have a great day.